All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Winner's Circle. I'm extremely excited for our guest today. She is an extremely hardworking and dedicated individual, and I honestly am very happy just to know her and be a part of her journey in any capacity. So I'm excited to hear her story. I've heard it a couple of times now, but I'm so excited to hear it in the context of an audience that's going to see it as motivation. And I am super proud to know her. So, none other than Denim Fisher. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself, her journey, the scholarships that she's won. And I'm going to just be here to guide the questions so that she can tell you all about her journey. So, without further ado, welcome, Denim. I'm really excited to have this conversation today. It's an open dialogue, and hopefully, it helps a lot of students out there with their scholarship journey. So, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Um, Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm very just happy and grateful that I met you along this journey. And it truly just, when you told me about the opportunity to be interviewed about my story, I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is cool. And I want to be a part of this. And I think that I have something to say. So let me just
Wonderful.
board.
Awesome. Okay, so let's just dive right in. So, before we get into your scholarships and your accolades, of course, I definitely want to have the audience know a little bit more about you and where you come from and your goals and where they're going to end up being. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your academic goals, future goals, college and beyond? You don't have to know everything right now, just the basics of where you want to go and why you're going to college.
Yes. So I'm Denim Fisher. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I currently attend Spelman College. I'm a first year. I'm a sociology major, creative writing minor on the pre-law track. And initially, I wanted to be a sociology major because of its focus on institutional impact. And when I say institutional impact, I mean racism and all of the other isms and its impact on communities, as well as our interactions with each other, our interactions with ourselves. I just wanted to get a view of zooming out and looking to see like how a system as macro as racism is and how that impacts people on both a macro and a micro level. And the creative writing piece comes in because I'm a writer and poet. And the pre law piece comes in because I aspired to be a civil rights attorney. Now, since I've come to Spelman, I think that I no longer want to be an attorney. I think that I just want to be a writer and a creative for the rest of my life. And writing isn't something that, just came to me overnight. I've been writing my whole life and did not realize it. It's, interesting like how the thing that you are good at or the thing that you have done the most, you don't really look at it as like oh, this is my job. It's like, no, actually, I do this to survive. Um, I do this to express myself. I do this to get by. And, with that being said, I felt misunderstood a lot growing up. And so writing, I looked at writing as like I can be a voice for the voiceless. So both myself, I'm healing. And then if my words so happen to touch the hearts of people, that's great. So that's just like how I looked at writing. And then in terms of like when I said I wanted to be a creative, there are some creative talents that I have unlocked since I've been at Spelman. I've been dancing, I've been singing, I've been performing my poetry, borderline rapping, and I have also recently taught myself Mary Had a Little Lamb on piano. So, and the intro to Like Him by Tyler, the Creator. So, there's just a lot of different talents I'm unlocking. And I don't know where I'm going to end because of my multifacetedness. I think, if anything, where I would end would not be a linear, straight path box. I tell my mom all the time that I don't want like a corporate job where I'm working behind a desk and punching in on the clock, and just working these 40-hour weeks and all this hours a week. And I just don't want to be miserable. And I don't like to be stagnant. I like to be everywhere. I don't like to be tied down. So I could definitely see my career being one where I'm like traveling, speaking to people, sharing my art with the world. And yeah.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. And a lot of times, a path isn't linear. In a lot of ways, it's not really supposed to be. Where you start now is not where you're going to end up. I have full confidence whatever you choose to do, you're going to be great at, because that's just how you are. You have a lot of passion with anything that you're putting your work into. So that's very commendable. I think, at the end of the day, whatever you choose to do is going to be whatever profession it is, they're going to be lucky to have you. So I'm very glad that you're keeping an open mind, because you, with such creative juices, you really could affect a lot of different industries in a lot of different ways. So I have confidence you'll be great at whatever it is that you decide to do.
Thank
Um,
you.
and that's just a testament to your ability to work hard at the things that are important to you and important for your overall well-being, obviously. So and that's where the scholarships obviously come into play. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit more about the scholarships that you've won, what it covers, if you know how competitive it was, you can mention that as well. And just kind of take us through your journey thus far, because it's not over. It's you've got some ways, but you've already accomplished so much that it's going to be extremely motivating for people to hear. So I'll let you go ahead and speak on that.
Of course, of course. So I think before I jump into the journey, I should title the journey. So I think that honestly, the title of this journey is I will either find a way or make one. And I say that because I was with myself when I had zero scholarship dollars to my name. And then I was also with myself when I had over 55K in scholarships to my name. And no, that did not happen overnight. And there was a very, very dark path that I think I was kind of on, and I did not see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that when you think about applying to scholarships, that is an external thing, but there's also an internal process and an internal view that, you as a human being, I as a human being had to endure and had to overcome and process. And if I was to just, break up the process into like a few categories, I would say number one, I found resources. So I had a close relationship with my guidance counselor. And wait, hold on. This is not the question. I was supposed to tell you which scholarships I won.
You're all good. Well, you're all good. We'll get into the other stuff later. So I guess I'll repeat the question. So tell us about the scholarships you won, what it covers, and if you know how competitive it was, like how many applicants, things like that, then you can tell us that too.
Yes. Okay, thank you so
The
much.
journey after.
So
Go ahead.
so a lot of in total, I probably won like 25 scholarships. And some of the scholarships that really stood out to me were the Point Foundation BIPOC Scholarship. Now, the Point Foundation Scholarship is very competitive. The Point Foundation is an LGBTQIA plus community organization. So their aim is to support students who are queer, as well as students who are Black, because the BIPOC scholarship is for those who identify as Black, are queer, in a 4-year university consider themselves to be a change agent or someone who is making impact in their community. That scholarship was 1,500. And the thing that I love the most about the Point Foundation is not only do they just give you, like, not only are they giving me a scholarship, well, a scholarship that I worked for, not only have I been granted a scholarship, but there's also a lot of different resources such as networking opportunities. They have a partnership with BetterHelp where you can get a 6 months, you get a 6 month free therapy like subscription. And I thought that was really dope, especially because like mental health for college students is already like one thing. But when you are a Black queer student, that is just like a whole other layer, and all of that intersectionality and different, interweb of identities that makes life difficult. So the fact that they have that partnership, amazing. um so that's a bit about Point Foundation. Another scholarship that I won was the Lancome and NAACP Bright Your Future scholarship for 10,000. The Lancome scholarship is through the NAACP, so you have to be engaged with your NAACP, like local branch. Or I won this scholarship. Well, I qualified for the scholarship because I was in the NAACP Act So program as a poetry contestant for their poetry written category. So that, allowed me to get into the door. But the Lancome scholarship, I would definitely say that one, I looked on the website, and in 2023, they awarded around like 40 students. So I guess you could look at that as something that is relatively competitive. At first, I was like, okay, like they awarded a lot of people, so that must mean that they're not competitive. But then you have to think like this wasn't just students who were only in Baltimore, Maryland, like where I'm from. This was students like all over the United States. So, in the grand scheme, like on a wider scale, when you look at this situation, it was very competitive. Um, because a lot of people uh are involved in the NAACP, and a lot of students in particular probably applied for these scholarships. Another scholarship that I would say, the Patterson HBCU scholarship, that was, so James Patterson, an author, he partnered with the Ben Carson Scholarship Foundation to give students a, bless you, to give students a scholarship. And that this scholarship is $5,000. It's renewable up to 3 times with a potential value of 20,000. And would I say this was hard? I would say medium. It wasn't extremely easy, but it also wasn't extremely hard. I think that if you like really like put time into these applications and like dig deep, then there's a multitude of things that, lead to one's success. Like I can't even say that I won these things because of luck. Like I just think that it was a blessing, really.
That's awesome. No, I totally agree with you. I think that the idea that floats around the whole scholarship community, and when we post things, not just me as a creator, but other creatives as well, there's this idea that it's a luck of the draw kind of thing, when it comes to scholarships, and it's really not. It's a luck of the draw if you go about your journey in a haphazard way where you're just going to apply for anything and hope for the best. You seem very strategic in the types of scholarships that you were applying to. You utilize the fact that you're going to an HBCU. So when you think about it like that, that also narrows down the applicant pool, right? There's only, so many HBCUs, and then there's only so many students who know about those scholarships for HBCUs. So you already eliminate a lot of the country by putting yourself in that position. So I
Mhm.
think that that's also something like to note here. Going to an HBCU has a lot of benefits in that regard as well. Because even though it is competitive and it's a lot of students, you eliminate almost all of the country, all the schools in the country except HBCUs. So it's good, but the level of competition is still high in that these are high achieving HBCU students. So it's a catch 22 because the people you're competing against are definitely of a high caliber. So it's subjective really, but it's honestly incredible, and you won a ton of like smaller local scholarships as well. That's adding to that $55,000 total, but those big ones obviously, are national and are hard to win. So, you should be really proud of yourself, and I'm glad that you don't think it's luck, because it's not. You worked really hard at these applications, and you set yourself up for success by strategically applying to these scholarships. So I think that, if people can understand that, they can learn a lot from you just from that alone. Now, so that's the scholarships you actually won. So tell us a little bit. I know they're all going to be different. You had so many scholarships that you won. So, I would just focus on like, maybe the common themes of the application process. So I'm sure there were, essays and things like that.
Mhm.
But, some scholarships may have been different, and some scholarships may have been the same. How much do you think the application process for those scholarships you're applying to overlapped, and which ways didn't it? And, give us a little insight into like the application process for, I guess if you could separate it into two groups, like how would you separate them?
Yeah, so when I hear this question, I just think about like the behind the scenes and the steps. So I would say one of the steps that I took was I found the resources. So when I got to like my senior year of high school, I feel like that's when a lot of the scholarships started to like call my name and like actually like work its way around, because like when I was in ninth grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I was stressing like I need to be applying to scholarships. Like I need to, be productive, all of these things. And like people would tell me like, Denim, like, no, you have to wait until you get to your senior year. And I was like, are you serious? Like I have to like keep waiting. And they were like, yeah. And like, then I actually, experienced, the wait, and then like getting to senior year and actually like realizing that, oh, okay, this is the year where people start talking to you about those things. So I would say number one, me and my counselor had a close relationship. And when she made her scholarship bin and the scholarship binders and stuff, like I lived in the counseling office. I ate lunch there. Um, just because like I was never really like a big fan of the cafeteria, but I ate lunch there, and I also would talk to her, and I would look through the scholarship bin and the binders and stuff, and I would just like, pick out the applications that resonated with my identity. And I think a lot of the applications were for high school seniors. It was like if you identify as Black, if you identify as female, if you identify as someone going to a HBCU. I didn't do like any major specific scholarships except for like one, because I honestly like did not know. Like I knew what my major was going to be, but then I ended up changing my major. So when I applied to college, I was a political science major, but then I changed it to sociology, and I still don't know like if I'm staying with sociology. So, I just want to throw that out there. But I would say my guidance counselor, Instagram, TikTok, Google, particularly this resource called JLV Counseling. That is what I used. And also the Scholarship Academy with you, with Sade. So that was like the first step. Then the second step was finding a team of mentors. So I would go to, like, honestly, I had a lot of teachers who I was like best friends with, well, really close with, because I was like, just like always the old soul who wanted to talk to the adults. So I was friends with my teachers. So honestly, I went to my teachers, one teacher in particular, for like advice on my applications. I would stay after school, he would help me, things like that. I also sought out like people, like I was cold emailing people, like, can you help me? And then eventually like I really did like I built like a team of like 7 different mentors. Like some people I was meeting and they were just like, oh yeah, like I was just like throwing it out that like, okay, I am a first generation college student. I don't know what I'm doing. I need some support. And they were like, okay, like, yeah, like I'll help you. And so like, over time, like I cultivated a team of like 7 to 8 mentors who, like, if somebody was busy or had to work, I go to the other person. If they were busy and had to work, I go to the other person. So it's just like you really do have to build a team around you. You have to build a circle because none of this can be done alone. Every time I thought that, it could be done alone, it didn't go right. So that's number two. And there's this African proverb that's like, if you want to go fast, like go alone, but if you want to go like further or like longer, go together. So like you do have to build a team of people around you. Um, Another step was finding a platform to organize like all of these scholarships, the deadlines, all of that stuff. I saw a lot of people on TikTok, which I would say TikTok is an amazing resource for if you like literally like don't know what you're doing. Like, and the same thing with YouTube. Like, taught myself how to play piano last week from YouTube and Google. Like, these resources are free. And we should like just use them and take advantage of them. But nonetheless, the platform that I used for organizing my scholarships were Google Docs. A lot of people were saying like they used Excel spreadsheets, stuff like that. I really got overwhelmed by all of that. So I just like did something that was simple, like every single month, like going back to that first step with the resources, every single month, I would look on Instagram, TikTok, I would go to my guidance counselor. I would use the newsletters that the Scholarship Academy sent out, as well as like other newsletters that I had signed up for. And I would like go through that, sift through that for maybe like an hour or two. And I would like put these scholarships, I would pick out the scholarships, put them on a Google Doc, put the deadline, and I would do that every single month. And I would probably put like 10 scholarships on each like Google Doc like every month. So I was like applying to like 10 scholarships a month for like 9 months straight. So I, and honestly, yeah, honestly, I've probably applied to like over like 90 scholarships. And yeah, I was like rejected a lot and it hurt. But
Course.
yeah.
Of course. And it's something that I love that you said is, you were looking through all the resources every month. You were pulling 10 scholarships every month. And like it sounds crazy, like, oh my God, 90 scholarships, I could never do that. Well, no, you can't do that in 2 months, but you can do it over 9 months, you can do it over 8 months. And I think that's the principle here is the consistency. A lot of students, they have this thing where they just pick a month and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go crazy this month and hope that it works out, when really you what the key is here is that you were applying consistently. There might be a scholarship that opens and closes in a month you weren't looking and it was perfect for you, but because you weren't looking in that month you missed it. It happens all the time. Sade, oh my God, I there's a scholarship, like it just closed. I saw it the day before and like whatever. And like had they been doing what you were doing, it would have already been on their list. It would already
Yeah.
be on their list in the beginning of the month or whatever. So I do think there's like a lot of value in just understanding that the consistency part and the strategic part, you pick 10 scholarships a month to apply to. So let's just say that's roughly two, three per week. That's
Mhm.
way more manageable than 40 in a month or 50 in a month, which is some of the things I'm hearing from people who are not, starting from scratch and are not really taking the time to build a routine. You've built a routine with scholarships that you could consistently stick to and replicate. And the
Yeah.
second and the second thing I think people really can take from your story is the mentorship. Now, people think that you can only have one mentor, and I 100% agree with you. I got mentors for everything and anything, because some people are going to be better than others at certain things, and that's okay too. And being so young and understanding that mentorship is going to propel you is so so important. So like, even just not even for scholarships, for your career, for life, like, I think having your own little personal board of directors, like, that's so awesome. And like, even if you only had two people instead of, you had seven, you said, right? So even if you only had two people, that's more than enough. Like, people, I think, are scared to ask for help, and I love that you leaned into it and you leaned forward. And like, for a lot of people, that's scary to like just lean forward and ask for help. So I can even learn a lot from that part of your story. So that's really impressive, and I'm glad that you brought it up. It's awesome.
Thank,
Um
thank you. I
so
I was also gonna say there was like one other step that I took, like a bonus step, if I can share that.
sure, absolutely.
So, with everything, and I've really learned this like throughout the journey that like two things can exist at once. Cause it's like I did ask for help, but I was also scared at the same time. I applied to scholarships, but sometimes I didn't have the motivation. My motivation ebbed and flowed. Like there might have been a month where it was like, oh, I wanted to apply to 10 scholarships, but I only applied to like five or like seven. But the fact is, like, I still kept going despite, like, okay, maybe in January I applied to 10, but February I only applied to three. The fact is, I still kept going. And like motivation, it definitely does ebb and flow. And you really like, I would say a lot of the times, like, we mentally will lock ourselves in a cage, like, before we even like start something because we think that, like, oh, well, if so and so in my family hasn't done it before, or if I don't know like what I'm doing, then I won't be able to be successful. Like, no, if we I think with like motivation, I read before that like you don't become motivated just from like, sitting and being like, oh, like, I want to like motivation becomes a thing like after you start the thing that you want to do. So like when you start applying to like scholarships and stuff, like that's when the motivation comes. Like motivation doesn't just come like when you're in a stagnant place. And I think that that can be like that's still like something that's really hard to like just like conceptualize. But going back to like my bonus step, I manifested like literally everything that I've done. I've manifested. First of all, you have to be very careful with the words that you speak over your life. If you are constantly saying stuff like, oh, like I won't win any scholarships and stuff, like when I was in that place, in that state of mind, I wasn't winning anything. But when I started like writing the sticky notes, like I started writing sticky notes around my room. I created like vision boards like on my laptop and like my phone and stuff. I started like the team of like mentors, the board of directors, like they were speaking life into me. I had to start speaking life into me. Um, the combination of all of that and taking action caused me to go from 0 to 55K. Um, Literally. It's like you have to have like the vision board and the taking action, like it really works. Because if you just have the vision, and you don't take action, the vision is just going to sit there. Like a sticky note will just be a sticky note on the wall. And then if you take action, but then you have no vision, then you're going to go all over the place and you won't be like focused and disciplined on like what it is that you need to do. So the manifestation and the action, they go together. They go together.
No, and that's what I try to preach all the time. And I'm hoping and praying that hearing it from your voice will change people's perspective, because I think it's kind of like a perception, like, oh, Sade, you've already graduated, Jeffrey, you've already done the things. That's why you're speaking like this. Like, no, I've been speaking like this even before I was, like you said, I was manifesting what I wanted before I had it. And I think that's so important. And it's not easy to do. No, nobody ever said any of this was easy. So I'm glad that you're not, you're saying, the hard and the bad, the good and the bad, the ebbs and the flows, as you say. So I'm really glad you're emphasizing that, because it's not always going to be easy. So I'm very, but it is great, because it's like 55,000 first year at Spelman, completely free. Like, how many people can say that that's a reality for them? So that's like amazing. So, to get into a little bit more, we were talking about the board of directors, we were talking about, basically, like, at the end of the day, that's like your own little eco community, your own little community. So I'm gonna you went through the resources. So you were a part of the Scholarship Essay Academy for a while, and then even before you joined the Scholarship Essay Academy and you worked with me and everything, you were following the Scholarship Collective newsletter as well. So, like, I mean, you can talk about them separately, together, doesn't really matter, but I would love to hear a little bit more, like, how do you feel like the Scholarship Collective newsletter helped in your journey with winning scholarships? And then on the other side, how do you feel that the Scholarship Essay Academy also contributed to that same success? What is your thoughts on that? And you can say them separately, together, doesn't matter.
Yes, so I would say the Essay Academy definitely like just allowed me to get some insight on like how to write scholarship essays. Like when we would like as a team like work together to give someone constructive feedback and yes, when we would like work together to like give someone constructive feedback, I think that like motivated me to become like a better writer. And my writing was already strong, but it became stronger. And with writing, scholarships, or just learning any skill, it's a continuous journey. You don't just learn it and then there's that, like, you're always learning. So I think that the scholarship academy like just had the amount of resources, people, faces, and just like a team of people to motivate and to assist. And I guess this kind of like segues into like the actual community. And like I think that like our first of all, we had like a group chat on what platform was it? It starts with like a
Discord.
say that again.
Discord.
Yeah, so we had a group chat on Discord and I liked the group chat. Like there would be certain times where you would like put in the chat like, "Oh, like what are some scholarships you've recently won?" Or like people would share their wins and like we would congratulate them. And I've shared my wins a couple of times in the group chat. And so I think that that's important because I think that we celebrating your wins along the journey is such a good thing because I think it motivates you to like keep going, but it also motivates you to like live in the moment and actually appreciate what you have already accomplished before like this big thing. Like I said, like I went from 0 to 55K, but obviously there were steps in between that led up to that 55K big moment. Like the first time I won 1,000, the first time I won a $10,000 scholarship, like those were steps in the journey. And those steps were very important and necessary. And sometimes you don't know who to share your wins with. And sometimes there are people that you share your wins with, and it's just like their comments are backhanded, they don't feel or seem genuine, you don't, you know, they're not happy for you in the ways that you thought they would be happy for you. So having like a community where you can actually like share like, oh, this just happened to me, and like people are actually like clapping for you, that means a lot. It does, like, that helps us. That strengthens our self-esteem and just like motivates us to keep going. So that was like one element that I liked about the Scholarship Academy. I think that just the fact that you guys provided a space and are, providing a space, especially on like the Zoom calls, that is a space that I appreciate because I've like shared the hardships that I've experienced and just like different things. And like you guys are just like always motivating, supportive, and kind. And sometimes that's honestly what you need. Just like a kind person to tell you that like you're enough, you're doing enough, and the things that you want to accomplish, you will.
That's awesome. And that's definitely the culture that we try to push, not just with me, but like with our coaches who do the calls and stuff. Like, we want to make sure that you guys feel comfortable just being you on paper in front of a group. And like, because, at the end of the day, these essays, they're private. They're only going to go to, whoever you're sending them to. So when you guys give us an essay, we really do see that as a piece of you guys. And that's something that like we never take for granted. And like, everybody's story is just so different and unique, and yours obviously was definitely one of them as well. So it's been a pleasure, honestly, working with you and with everyone who's been in the academy since I've started it. So alrighty, so we got into your board of directors, the community, the aspects of it that got you through it. But what about the people who are not where you are yet, right? So, what advice would you have for other students who may feel like giving up on scholarships? And like, what can you speak life into them the way that it was spoken into you? So, I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that now.
Yes. So I would say there are like three main things that I would tell people. So the first thing that I would tell people is like, and I'm looking at my paper. So if I'm like looking down, it's because I like have some notes. But the first thing that I would tell people is people won't believe in your dreams if it doesn't or didn't happen for them. So like oftentimes like for instance, I had a counselor and like we were close and stuff, but she kept telling me like how people like everybody has debt and all this other stuff, and I'm just like, but that's not going to happen for me. And I was telling her about, cuz I'm a poet and so I read other poets and other writings and stuff, and Tupac once said that reality is wrong and dreams are for real. And I told her that, like, we had a conversation and she's like, "Oh, like, like everybody has debt and, I know that, you want to graduate without debt, but like it's impossible and I had debt." And then some other lady was like, "Yeah, my son has debt and all this stuff." And I'm just like, you guys are trying to convince me that my dream of graduating debt free is a not even necessarily a wrong dream, but it's unattainable because of the other people in your life who weren't able to attain um this dream. And so I just think that like if you have a dream, you should just like honestly go for it. And yeah, I mean, tell some people about it too, like the board of directors, the people who support you, confide in them. But the naysayers or the people who are like, "Oh, well, it didn't happen for my son or it didn't happen for me," like don't listen to them because people's limitations aren't your own. And with that being said, like, yeah, like if it didn't happen for them, it makes sense why it makes sense why they are speaking from a place of lack. Their viewpoint is limited because they haven't expanded. But if it clearly it's worked for you once, or you have this dream, then go after it. And I would say if you want to give up, it's likely because of the uncertainty. And I also wrote down that your goals are on the other side. Your goals are on the other side of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. You can be uncertain about the journey, but you should have some certainty about what's in front of you. So, with that being said, like, there were a lot of times I wanted to give up, and it was because of the uncertainty. I was like, so and so in my family hasn't done it. My counselors are telling me that, they didn't do it. Their son, family member, or whatever, like, did not do it. So now I'm uncertain because everybody's telling me this has not happened for them. But I think that if you do have certainty about what you're doing, like in front of you, like, hey, I don't know what can happen at the end of this, but I do know that every month I'm gonna still wake up, get this Google Doc going with these scholarships and these deadlines, and I'm gonna keep, applying, even though I don't know. Although, like, I don't know what can happen on the other side. Like that consistency in the face of uncertainty is powerful. Um, and also validate yourself and find people who validate you. I was a high achieving student and people would like pat me on the back and be like, "Oh, like, of course you're going to win such and such. Of course you're going to do such and such because you are X, Y, and Z." And I'm just like, but people don't truly understand or know what is going on behind closed doors. Like there are a lot of mental hurdles and barriers that I had to get through in order to get that 55K. And there are still a lot of mental health barriers and hurdles that I am going through on this journey, like currently in current life. But I say all of that to say like people will never truly know the work and effort you put in, but it's your job to make your story come alive. It's your job to validate yourself. It's your job to know, like, hey, I've been through X, Y, and Z, but I still achieved X, Y, and Z. So going back to, the title from earlier, you find a way or you make one. And when there's people around you who they haven't found a way, so they're telling you, oh, you don't know the way, make one. And that's the story of being a trailblazer, honestly, and just pursuing
That
your goals, like, even if people, like, don't believe in you. It's that
right.
simple.
That's awesome. And I think that a lot of people, especially when in the beginning stages, as you were as well, like they're doubtful, not of just other people, but themselves. And I'm glad that you did not succumb to the pressure of other people putting, projecting their lack of success onto you. I think that that's really important, and a lot of students go through that, so that's really powerful what you shared. So I really appreciate you telling us about that. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I agree with you in that respect. um, and only you know how hard you worked. So you can be grateful for the things you win, or, upset about the things you don't win, because it's always going to be going back to your effort and your level of resilience and will that you're willing to put up with. So for
Mm,
that, I appreciate you sharing your story, because there's so much people don't know and don't see. They only see this end product, 0 to 55K in your first year. Like, that's something that didn't happen in a couple of months. It's a long
right.
journey, and it's a journey you're still on. So I'm excited to see everything that you do, of course. And I just know whatever you're doing is gonna take off, and it's gonna be successful. So I'm really happy that you came today. I'm very, very honored to even be a part of your journey. You are so impactful, you're so insightful, you're so bright, and I think you have a long, long journey and career ahead of you. So I appreciate you being on the winner circle, and I'm gonna probably see you back here at some point, because you'll have some kind of crazy other thing that happens to you that I want to praise you for. So never
Yeah.
lose. never lose your fight, because it's really inspiring.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so beautiful to say. I was going to say yes, you definitely will see me because we're living in some very unfortunate times and we can't control those things, and like the politics right now is like it's devastating. So, during these times, a lot of students, there has been talk around like relying on scholarships and not financial aid, because the things that we're seeing like in our office, like the financial aid opportunities could be limited for us students. And people like me, I literally just got in college. Um like I am a first year. I have like 3 more years to go. And prior to coming to college, I was relying on external scholarships. But I think now more than ever, I will be relying on scholarships. Like if there are certain policies that are passed that prevent me from getting the financial aid that I need to continue my journey, then I will have to rely on those external scholarships. So you'll definitely be seeing me in the academy for how many ever years like I'll be here. And I will definitely, like, winter break, I'm gonna start applying again for sophomore year. So, yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us on the Winner's Circle, and I am excited to see what you do next.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.